world. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Healthy Church Growth Show podcast. And today we're talking about an aspect of healthy growth of any church, which really, I feel, doesn't always get the airing and the covering it needs to. And that's about relationships and marriage. And today I'm really delighted to have a lovely couple in Chicago who got up at 8:30 a.m. in the morning to speak to me. And they are Elders Connell and Rhonda Hollins. How are you both?
We are blessed and highly favored.
Oh, fantastic.
We work at this time. It does good for us.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, I really am delighted to speak to you because, as I said at the beginning, I don't think that relationships, marriages are given the sort of focus. And we were talking earlier, I have noticed that, if people have met each other and they're courting and then want to get to the next stage, they might get some counseling either at the engagement stage or at the marriage stage, just before the ceremony. What do you say about that?
We agree with you hands down.
Hands down.
And sometimes they don't do it at all. They say they have this. Like, we're a product of our experiences. And so if we feel like we saw a good marriage with our parents or what we saw of it, because we don't know what happened behind closed doors, then we think we have that knowledge and that foresight. And we're like, we're good. I know what to do.
Yeah.
My father did it for 30 years. Why can't I?
Yeah. Or it's functioning dysfunction is what we see. So a lot of times you'll have couples that have an impression of what marriage is based upon what they've seen on TV, or what they want it to be versus what it really in reality could be and is. So I think that's kind of some of the way that we got started, because when we were looking at marriage, we were always looking at that everyone was looking at it at the very beginning. Or if there was a problem and they were about to face, a divorce or impending divorce, and there was no anything in regards to the transition in between. And my husband and I, we had, unfortunately, we were officiating at a funeral, and we went to the funeral and we saw on the headstone where it said this person sunrise at this point, and then they sunset at this point. And it was this little dash in between that was supposed to basically represent their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we said, why are we only making a big deal about the beginning and the ending of a relationship? Why aren't we working about the transitions in between? And so then that's what came about with me to we, because we said we want to talk about the transitions from me to we, everything in between.
Yes.
So
so we're gonna come back to me to we, but tell me first of all, what made you start a relationship and marriage ministry? What was the journey?
I mean, if you think about it, from the first day we got married, like that was the ministry. Marriage is a ministry.
Amen.
And we always talk about, and we tell other couples, like, what are you going to do to make marriage look good? Because that was God's first ministry. It was him in the church.
Yeah.
And so we have to be stewards of this. And we have to put out, because, if you think about nowadays, like you were saying earlier, marriage in general, it's not cool in some cases.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool to just have a life partner or a long-term relationship.
Or a wedding. They just are more excited about the wedding day, not the marriage.
Yeah. So, people don't really put that forethought into like what a real marriage entails. Yeah. And therefore, like, you go in unequipped.
Yeah. But I think what got us started is actually our church leadership. We had just gotten engaged. We had just came out of the premarital classes, and we were asking a lot of questions. I think we probably got on their nerves a little bit, because we were like, well, what happens if this happens? And what happens if that happens? We were just asking so many questions.
And it didn't help that we were the only couple in the class.
Yeah, we were the only, because remember we started off with like three other couples, and then all those couples fell off.
What do you mean fell off?
So they stopped coming.
Yeah.
They stopped attending. And I think it was because they felt as though it didn't relate to what they were actually going through or facing.
Yeah. And then sometimes at a certain point, you start to realize, like, when the information gets kind of heavy, and you realize like maybe I'm not really equipped for this, then you take a back seat. You just like, I'm not going to do it now.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, because if the worst thing that happens is that you realize you're not supposed to get married, and you don't do it versus doing it and then getting divorced, then at least you did something right.
Right. But I would say in those cases, they just didn't relate. When we first started, those couples, I just felt as though they didn't think the information related. I think they believed it was more religious than understanding. And I think that we also kind of felt that way too. And that's why we were asking questions, because we wanted to say, you know, how does this deal with a modern day couple? How do we apply biblical principles to real life right now? And then how do we enact marriage the way God envisioned it to be? Absolutely. And so when we start asking all those questions, then right after we finished the course, because we went, at that time, it was only 6 weeks of training. After we finished the 6 weeks of training, they said, hey, we want you to sit in on some of the classes that we're going to be having for postmarital. And we sat in the postmarital classes, and we were like, they also felt as though they weren't equipped, you know, and there were different levels of issues, and what we now call seasons of marriage. They were in different seasons of marriage, and, you know, different level, different devil. You need something, you need something else for each phase that you go through. And we learned there, and they immediately assigned us to a couple that were, I would say 3 times our senior. And we were like, wait a minute, what do you mean? What can we teach them? You know, they're, you know, our parents' age, if not older. I think they were a little bit older than our parents. And so they wanted us to go in there and coach. And we went in there and did so. But we learned so much about when you're at that, when it's almost, I hate to say it, but I don't want it to be negative, because God can do anything. But when you get to that stage of life, you kind of been set in your ways a little bit. So it's really important for us to get there at the very beginning and then work all the way through, so that they have, you know, an understanding of what marriage is in every season of life.
So what age were they actually?
I think they were in their mid 60s. They
were mid and early almost 70.
Oh, wow.
They actually had met in high school, and then they came back around after they had both previously been married already.
Right. And they had visions of what they were basing their union off of, what they looked like in high school and who they were in high school. Yeah. And now they had been through things. They had other relationships. And, you know, even at one point, I remember they were fighting on social media, on Facebook. And we were like, publicly. And we were trying to, you know, curtail them back. And there were also moments where they just didn't want to budge. Well, this is who I am. This is who you know, and they didn't believe in compromise. So they didn't believe in one flesh, in spirit and mind and in action.
Can I dig a bit deeper there? I mean, it's surprising to hear that people of that age group would be open in the first place to any sort of counselling, let alone from people who are younger than them. How did they take that at first? Did they say, yes, we want to do this? Did they go off being dragged and screaming? How did that work?
Oh yeah, initially, especially the gentleman. Yeah, because he was very worldly, and he just knew that he knew everything. Yes. So
he was a know-it-all that didn't know it all.
So initially with him, he didn't take too kindly to the fact that we were literally in our first year of marriage, and we were trying to teach him something. And he was very reluctant, very.
I mean,
and honestly, I don't really think he fully came around at all. Like she was there. Like she was in it, and she wanted it to take place. Like because what happened was she actually moved down to him. Yeah. Like she changed her world to be in his world, and he couldn't do the same for her after she had made such sacrifices for him.
Yeah, and that was difficult for him. And also he made plenty of references of our age, you know, like you don't know anything. He was like, you don't know anything yet. I got kids your age. What are you going to teach me? And so we were like, you know what, we're going to learn together. That's what we told him. We said, hey, we're going to learn together. And, you know, what we end up learning from that, and you let me know if this is fair to say, but we learned that they can maybe teach us some things in regards to foundational things, like what are the core values and how do you move forward that way? And then we told them, hey, we'll teach you how to keep it spicy, and keep it fresh, in marriage. And then how about we just trade secrets together so that we both are having a strong, lasting marriage. And it really worked with her.
Yeah.
And then I would say a couple times he came around, but he just couldn't get over. He said, how old are you again?
Like
how old are you? Every time we would give him something that he didn't want to agree with, but he knew was right. When we would go to the word and reference for evidence, he'll go, yeah, how old are you again? And so yeah, we learned rather quickly.
Yeah, but it also goes back to show that really, truthfully, age doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't.
Because if you think about it, like people wait so long to get married nowadays because of the fact they know they're not ready. But it really comes down to like what's in your heart. Like if you have a heart for that person, you have a heart to change for that person and be willing to let them in and just learn new things. Because even right now, 13 years into marriage, I'm learning new things about my wife every day still. Yeah. And that's how it should be. I should never think I passed this test.
Right.
And once I think I have, then I'm going to fail.
My husband always says, now I'm working on my PhD for Rhonda, or I'll say I'm getting my PhD in Connell. Like we're always working on it. We're getting our new master's degree in one another. Because yeah, you're right. We change every year. And so that's why, it's so important for us to be prepared for the transitions in life,
So what are your core principles? What were your core principles from the beginning of this marriage? And who did you learn from?
Wow. You know what? When you say who did we learn from, I say that I learned from my parents, but I learned what not to do. Mm-hmm. Because they can all, like, the good and the bad is in everything, but you have to take what you can learn from it. And my parents were, like Rhonda was saying, functional dysfunction. And but as a child behind closed doors, you think you know what's going on, but you really don't. And it wasn't until I got into my adolescent years that I really found out they weren't really happy, but they were together for me and my brother's sake. So I really just learned how to love. And to be honest, if I really think about it right now, I really didn't learn that until I actually met this woman and married this woman, how to really talk and really express my love. Because as a child, I really wasn't asked, like when you come home from school, you used to somebody saying, how was your day? Like that wasn't me. I actually would let myself into the house and I would just be there before my parents came home because they were a 2-income household and I was the first one home every day. And so as long as I was home, they knew I was good. And so we rarely didn't talk. It wasn't until I met my wife and her family that I really had to start expressing my feelings, which I didn't know how to do. I really had to start really socializing with people because I can be in a room with someone for hours and not say 2 words, but think that we are good. And we were good because I'm good in this space. And that's what she challenges me to do. She challenges me to come outside of the space that I say I'm good in and be better.
I love you. I was gonna say, I would say that, I learned from my parents, and my parents were in ministry at the church. They actually, our home church that we're at now, they were part of the marriage and family ministry. But I had a different take on it. I saw my parents always there laboring in love. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to do that because I was watching what they were bringing home or how they were fighting, shoulder to shoulder with couples and families in order to move forward. And so I think at one point I even got resentful because I wanted more time, with my family. So I didn't look at ministry the same way. However, when I met my husband and he had this new fire, this excitement for ministry, I felt like it refired me. And so we, and I remember at first I was like, when they were asking us to be head of the marriage ministry, I was telling my husband, I was like, you don't know how this is going to work. This is going to be, we're going to have trials and tribulations. This is long suffering, honey. Like are you ready for this? And when they told us about becoming elders, I said, we were praying in front of the church and they were letting us know what we were signing up for. And a part of that is long suffering. And I said, I looked at my husband, are you sure? Because you understand, it goes right into effect, right? And so, but he was just so on fire for marriages that it consumed me right back. And so then we fell in love with love and wanting people to prosper in love.
Yes.
But he didn't know he ignited me and I ignited him. And so that, and I believe that's the way God wants it to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. Iron sharp as iron.
I totally agree with you. So is it okay to be unequally yoked? I know what the Bible says.
Mm-hmm.
I know the context of it theologically. But I also know that there are a lot of single women and men out there. I would say more women than men.
Yeah.
Who have been looking for a life partner for a long time. And then they find someone and they seem to be perfect for them, but they happen to be not of the same faith. What do you say to that?
Can I join in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say that God made an unequally yoked mandate for a reason, okay? And it's so that you don't have a difficulty in your marriage, okay? Now, what I will say to go back is there's a difference between someone who has no belief in the Father versus someone who has belief, but they're moving towards it, that they're
at a slower pace.
Yeah, at a slower pace. And sometimes what we found is that, there may be a believing female, and the gentleman that she is with is a believer, but it's the first time he's been introduced to it, and now he's excited about it, and he's almost on more of an accelerated pace than the female is, right? And so we've seen that. Now that to us is a really good structure, because then that's, you guys are teaching one another how to grow in love, grow in Christ. But when someone has polar opposite beliefs, I would say no, because it's almost like running a race on a broken foot, is what we always say, and, if you're trying to run this race with someone who is running in two different directions, in the Bible, that means heterogeos, right? So hetero means, of the same or unfamiliar, right? And then geo being possible, right? Possible different directions. So if they're going in different directions, but yet they're going at different directions at a fast pace, right? So they're going to run away from each other and almost like a rubber band bounce right back and hit each other. And somebody's going to get tired, and it's usually the believing. And so you're not at a disadvantage walking in, and so that you don't create discord even in your union, in your legacy, because when you have children, then where do they go? They don't have a singular path to move forward. So it creates discord, and it creates generations of discord. So with that being said, yes, you can meet someone that is not exactly where you are, because that's okay, but they can't be completely against or away from where you are and not understand who God is and how great he is. That I would say. Yeah.
And I would just simply sum it up as this: it's easier for someone to pull you away from God than you to pull them up to God.
It is.
Like marriage and life is already going to be hard. So why even make it harder by being unequally yoked?
You better say that. You better say that. It's so true. Why make it harder than it has to be? So yes, you may believe that person is meant for you, but I always believe that God doesn't give you just one way for you to know that that person is meant for you. They're like, I heard it. And we always ask our couples this, we'll say, so how do you know that this person was the right one for you? And they'll say, God told me that they were the right one. And then we'll say, good, what did he say? and they can never elaborate. Only a few of them can elaborate. Then for the ones that elaborate, then we'll say, okay, good. Where's the evidence? Okay. Where's the evidence that this person in their character and in their action are going to continue this path, that this wasn't just a one-time feeling or based on emotion? Like, where are the evidence? Because that's how God works. He's going to show you in his word, and they're going to show you in action. So how does that compare? And so you'd be surprised. They'll go, okay. And honestly, we tell our couples when they come into our class, our job is, before you get married, we're going to try and break you up. We want to see how hard, if you can take this, because if you can't take this class, there's no way that you'll be able to take marriage. So we're going to throw everything at you and the kitchen sink. And we're going to show you how hard it can be. And then we want to see how you can make it. So, and they know it too. They always know. They're like, oh, you're trying to break us up. I say, yeah, you're a good candidate. You're a good candidate for it today. Let's see what happens, you know.
So what sort of questions or situations do you put to them to really test whether that relationship should or should not be?
Well, we have the biggest thing that people find difficult is this questionnaire that we have. It's like 140 questions that you typically just don't ask.
Yeah, and you should.
From one of which is just being, what's your medium credit score? You know?
Yeah, we ask them that. We'll say, what is your credit score? We'll say, do you have the possibility to have access to all their social media as well as their banking accounts? And you'd be surprised about that. Even the biggest one that they always fight about is that we always notice that hangs them up is we'll say, what is a discretionary amount? What amount of money can you spend and not notify your maid about? And you would be surprised. One mate will say $100, another one will say $3,000. We'll say, way up, you know, big disparagement there. Yeah, big gap there. And then we also have a postmarital survey too. And that's 140 questions too. And we ask, are you still attracted to your mate? You know, we ask about we ask them, what is your sexual frequency? Are you happy with that frequency?
Yes.
Do you feel desired? Why don't you? You know, and so we make them ask questions that they're really thinking, but they're not moving upon. And then they end up finding out, okay, this one, maybe we're not thinking about this right. Maybe we're not looking at this seriously.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it allows us to be the bad guy for them because like she was just saying, they are thinking about these things, but sometimes you don't want to break up. You don't want to, we tell couples when they come in, they're thinking about unicorns and rainbows and everything. And they don't want to pose any questions that's going to throw them off that track.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. So let us be the bad guy. Let us ask the questions. And then if you don't like the answer you hear, blame it on us.
Yeah. And we tell them, we'll say, hey, answer these questions separate from one another. Do not enter this question. Don't try and influence one another. Just answer honestly. And then we will all sit together and we will break down this questionnaire. And then we bring in married couples that are part of our marriage ministry and that are all seasons of marriage. We have 10 years, 16 years, 3 years, 25, and then we have 44. And we have them circle about in each one of those leaderships groups, and they pose these questions to them back and forth and say, well, what if this happens? What if this occurs? And it's almost like an interview panel, but it's just to get them prepared for what they may face. And so that they will look at it, you know, the way God sees, not the way we see, you know, because we look at the appearance of things and we already know that God looks at the inward all the way to the mirror. So we want to make sure that they're looking at it too and lay it out for them well.
That's quite intense though. But I want to ask you, as a couple, is it okay to disagree?
Yeah. Even though we disagree now, right?
Okay, next question.
I live to disagree with my wife.
Yes, because it makes it fun.
It sparks conversation, it sparks
it's fiery.
I take it as a challenge to try to sway her to my side. Like, oh, you don't agree with me? Why not? Not that I know I'm right, but I feel like I can convince you that I know I'm right, you know? Yeah. You know, like we always tell couples, do you remember the first Coming to America?
The movie?
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy.
So remember when
the second one was terrible.
It was. I was so sad.
So disappointed.
Really bad.
Remember when he was about to get married to the first young lady, his father had arranged. And every answer to his question was whatever you like.
Whatever you like.
Yeah. So whatever you want.
Right. So our thinking is, why if I wanted to marry somebody who just always agreed with me, I could just be by myself.
Yeah.
Like I need somebody who's going to invoke change or spark something else with me, to have me think in a different type of way. Yeah. That way I'm not always in my box. Because if you allow me to, my personality, I'll stay in this little box if you let me. Yeah. But I want somebody who's going to help push me forward so I can grow.
Yeah, give you something, you know, because it would be boring. Oh my God, that would be so boring. I couldn't live in a life like that. I want somebody to entice me to grow and then make me see things different. And he does make me look at things different. And sometimes we call it heated fellowship. We don't call it arguments. We go heated fellowship. But sometimes we're in the midst of heated fellowship. And I'm like, no, that's not right. And they'll be like, show me, you know, and then And then afterwards, then we get together and we just feel all, all lovey-dovey on each
We
other.
never go to bed angry though. We make it.
No, we don't. No, we don't. But it makes it fun though. I'm not gonna lie. It just makes it
Just
fun.
like spoiled milk, you wouldn't drink it. You have to put an expiration date on an argument as well. You can't let it fester or become something it shouldn't.
Absolutely. We believe in expiration dates. Don't you go past that date.
I love that. I love that. I think I'll use that as a meme, actually. That would be fun.
Amen.
So do you only work with Christian organizations, or do you go outside that?
No, we go wherever the need is. Just like Jesus walked with non-believers, we have to be available to everybody because like I even said, like I myself didn't know what a real marriage looked like. Mm-hmm. So if I didn't have her as an example, then where would I be? Mm-hmm. So everybody needs because we tell couples even now, like somebody's watching you. Mm-hmm. Like they see your marriage and they want to emulate it. Mm-hmm. Because nowadays with social media and everything, we're all people watchers. Mm-hmm. And so we tell people don't live a filter life, putting only the good out there. You have to, take the good and the bad, but be something positive for marriage. If you're going to do this and do this for the long haul, you have to emulate to the best of your ability and be something positive because somebody is watching you and they're going to base their decision off what they see in you. Because actually the couple who mentored us, my wife had saw them when she was a teenager. Yeah. And she loved what their marriage looked like. And she was like, yes. if and when I get married, I want something like that.
Exactly. But no, we have, I think honestly, I think that's where our ministry really is those that don't believe exactly the way we believe. Yeah. But they want to know, why is your marriage working? Why is it feel different? Why is it special? And we let them see the God in us, and then they want that God in us. Yeah, that light that's in them, and we have some couples from the UK, that were just in our
really?
most recent. Yeah. And we would love to, introduce you all to, you to them because they need a home church where they are. So just letting you know. But yeah, and I think on social media and then even with our podcast, I think we're attracting people who are not like us more than we are attracting people that are like us. So to me, I feel like that's ministry, meeting people where they are and then just literally preaching across and then just letting them see it. Because sometimes you don't have to overwhelm people. Mm-hmm. God is so good on his own. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't need for us to put out these big, banners and flags. He's amazing. And if they get a glimpse of who he really is, I'm telling you, they would never walk away.
No.
And even now we've been getting a big segment of single people coming to our class.
Yeah, lately.
Trying to get involved because they want to grow before they get with that whoever God places in their life later. Yeah. So that's been pretty big too.
Yeah, that's been another big aspect. Yeah. And men, we have a lot of what we would call millennial men. And they're our most loyal, like when they get on, they tell everybody about it and go from there. So
really? Wow.
Yeah, we because we're very transparent. We don't sugarcoat it. We tell them things that we have gone through. Or we give them, case studies of what other people have gone through. And we say, hey, these are your odds, but you can beat them, And so there, you have to be realistic, but give hope. And there is hope in it. It's beautiful when you find the right person. Yeah. It's so right.
Oh, yeah. And so is there any, how wonderful. if you're listening to this rather than watching the video, Connell just bowed his head to his queen. That's lovely. So is there any line that you would draw? Is there anywhere that you would not go, would not touch at all?
Let me see.
I feel like we've been faced with so many things in regards to.
Well, let me just say this then. Like from a we touch on sex per se. We don't speak on our relationship. Yeah. But we definitely try to steer couples towards waiting to marriage. So if they're not married and they want to talk about sex, we don't allow that to happen. Yeah. Because for the fact that we want their relationship to be anointed and blessed by God Himself. So why block your blessings by letting the flesh lead you?
Right. So we're real. Yeah, I would say that's absolutely correct. Like we don't talk about our bedroom because you don't have access to that because we're married and God gave us that. And that's what makes our bedroom undefiled. But what we do is we walk through what they should be expecting, how they should communicate prior to marriage and then after marriage in order to get their expectations met. Because what we're finding a lot is, especially for those that have held themselves before, until marriage, that after they have gotten together, intimately, right? What we call intimacy, right? They have found that they don't know what to do. And then they are treated, if they go to their leadership about it, is kind of like, just do what it is. They don't really give them instruction on how to move forward. Because it could be perceived as lascivious, in certain, houses, of God, right? And so we'll tell them, hey, this is, sex is a gift to marriage from God.
Yes.
And so this is how we would tell you should look at it. This is how you can teach one another what you need. So we will never have that conversation with someone who is living with someone or who has not, who's unmarried. If you're unmarried, we will not do it because we understand the covenant that comes with it. And we don't want a contract love. We want a covenant love. It's so much different.
But I'm sorry, I don't want to put you in a difficult position, and don't answer if you don't need to. But if they're non-Christians, and they don't understand our precepts, how do you deal with that?
It's like
you basically have to. Obviously, we say meet them where they're at, but I look at it as me challenging them to want more for themselves than I could want for them. Because, we could want everything, the moon and the sun for them, but if they don't want it for themselves, then who am I to kind of continue to beat them down about it? So all we can do is put it out there. That's what God requires us to do. Just put it out there and say it, and hopefully it hits their heart.
Absolutely. And if I could add to that, I would tell you that what we say is we just live out loud. We kind of, instead of trying to, make them feel condemned, right? In regards to it, we tell them what conviction feels like. We say, hey, this is how we feel. This is what's been happening in our life. And let me show you how we've been blessed doing it the way that God told us to do it. And when we sit back and we just kind of just let that breathe and lay on them, and we let them know right away, we're not trying to condemn you. If you feel condemnation, that is the enemy. That is not us. But if you feel conviction, that's a good thing. That means that you have conscience of heart and you know that there's more for you available. So it's up to you what you decide. We're just going to lay out these things. And there was a wise person that told us once before that our job, is not to perform miracles. God performs miracles. We sit back and watch. And so that's how we kind of put it, So it's on them.
You sow the seed, basically.
Yeah, that's it. Sow the seed and
so
let God make it grow.
Sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned your podcast, Me to We. You mentioned that a few times. Actually, you've won an award for it as well in 2020. Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So tell me what you feature. Is it the same, similar sorts of things? You feature any of the case studies? You have couples that you've worked with on it? Tell me about that.
Well, we try to run the gamut. We try to talk about what's new and now, especially in this modern society that we live in.
Yeah.
But, it's really about just trying to save one marriage, one relationship, one couple at a time.
Yeah.
We try to put out there what they may be thinking and not saying. Mm-hmm. And we just try to keep talking about it. And hopefully they come around to it as well.
Yeah, we get a lot of emails and we do work on anonymity because a lot of times one mate is having an issue with the other. Mm-hmm. So we don't put the couples on there because we also feel that sometimes you don't want to put out too much for the enemy to try and take a hold of and create a divide between a union. So what we'll do is we'll do it as more of a case study, and we'll say, hey, this is a situation that has been sent in to us. And we get their permission and consent.
Yes.
But yeah, we get quite a few of them, and we'll see the trend of what's going on. Like even during COVID, when things were happening with COVID, yes, we were getting the same type of messages like, hey, I love this person, but I really don't like them, I'm saying right now, and so then we had an episode that featured that. We've had Christian sexual therapists that are on the call.
Yes.
We've had psychological therapists that help deal with trauma that may have affected them, such as rape or abandonment, and what could affect marriage and what you could be taking into it.
Mhm.
So we really try to dig into the things that would be normally uncomfortable in a church setting, but needs to be said, you know, and I really feel like that's what's helped. And, you know, you talk about that award was given to us by people who are what you would consider secular, you know, and so they were not Christian based, and they're deeply, involved in, and we really look for their relationships to move forward. And so they understand we love them, and I think we feel the love back.
Agreed.
And it shows on the podcast.
So thanks for that. I want to know if your leaders listen to this show. We have leaders of all denominations, both in the UK and the USA and parts of West Africa as well now.
Amen.
If you were talking about marriage ministry, or what would you say to them about moving forward with this? Because it's, as we said at the beginning, it's an area that just does not get covered as much as it needs to.
Well, can I shut off?
Oh, yes.
Well, I would definitely say one of the good things about our home church that they do is they make it a requirement.
Mhm.
Like they make it a requirement that if you want to be married by somebody from our church,
Mhm.
you have to go through our class.
Mhm.
So I would definitely say, being that marriage isn't always put in the forefront for leaders of different churches, maybe they should make it a requirement if couples want to come through their church and be married by somebody from their church.
Absolutely. And I would also say that they should also make it ongoing
Yes.
training and development. So we have our premarital and we have our postmarital classes, and then we have dating classes. You know, one of our leaders does a class and it's called How Not to Marry a Jerk, you know, and and we lay it all the way out, or a jerkette, right? We have both, right? And so and we lay it out, and it needs to be something that is continuous all the way through. The second thing I would say, if I can continue to add to that, is that we need a judgmental, a lack of judgment in a forum where people can speak freely about what they're facing in today's society. Dating is different than what it was previously.
Yes.
You know, people are dating on social media apps. There are different dangers that come along with that. And we're not laying out what those red flags would be, modern times, and how God can help them through it. So I would hands down say that we need a judgment-free zone, and that sometimes, and I hope that they're open to hearing this, but sometimes as believers, we can have a biased view, or more of a religious view on what God is and how he perceives marriage, how he perceives sex within marriage. And then we pass those biases on to people and we make them feel judged and guilty. But you need to show the love more. You have to lead with love, because God is love.
Yes.
And so you can't say God is love and then say, but you can't this, and you're bad if you do this and you do that. It creates these resentments that happen, and we don't see the flourishing of marriage the way it should be. And I'll say this last thing, and I know I'm over talking because I get passionate about this, but we are noticing that millennials are getting married less and less. And it's because it doesn't look like marriage doesn't look good to them. It looks contractual. It looks like something that's restraining.
It looks like work.
It does. It is work.
They're used to having everything right now. It's a microwave society, and they want it now, fast, and in a hurry.
Absolutely.
And nobody wants to work for it anymore.
Right. But we also have to meet people where they are. And if they need love, but they don't understand it the way that it really should be, then we're not serving, that audience. We're not serving that congregation, that people, if we're not giving them what they need the way God gives it. I mean, Jesus was an amazing storyteller, and he would meet people where they were. We have to meet people where they are and then take them on the journey with us. That's my opinion.
That's so eloquent. It really is. And so where can we find the podcast?
Oh, you can find us everywhere. We're on Apple, we're on Stitcher, we're on iHeartRadio. But yes, please look us up. It's Me Do We Talk podcast. We've been podcasting about a year now, and our students are the ones that told us. They're the ones that said, hey, you should get on this on this forum, this platform.
Fantastic.
And so we've been doing it ever since.
It's been a fun ride ever since.
Ever since, yeah. So please find us there, or you can go to our website as well, which is medowetalk.com, and go to our podcast page. Or if you're looking for things in regards to marriage and marriage enrichment, both premarital and postmarital, then you can go to metoweLove.com.
Wow, Me to We, brilliant brand. I really appreciate you sharing this in, quite a short space of time. And I'm sure that leaders will reach out to you, because you offer consultancy to other leaders as well, don't you?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
And are you doing online at the moment?
I'm sorry. Yes, we're doing online.
We're doing Zoom as well. Like I said, we just finished up our class for this season.
Yeah.
But stay tuned.
Yeah,
it's coming back around again.
We just finished an 11-week course, and then the season before we had a 20-week course. So we switch it up, and we're now walking into that phase, other than the new baby that's on the way. And so
and yes, I want to congratulate you. It's imminent now. In fact, we better get off before
Thank you, Minister.
before we wet the baby's head. So God bless and keep you over in Chicago, Elders Connell and Rhonda. Really appreciate your time. It's been a wonderful conversation.
So much. Thank you. God bless.